Hey there, YouTube friends. Planet Coaster 2 is almost here, and I was fortunate enough to get my hands on it, so I'm here to tell you what is the good and the bad with my experience with Planet Coaster 2 after sinking about 25 hours into the game. I'm maskedbandit. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about Planet Coaster 2. First off, I'd like to give a huge shout to all the wonderful people at Frontier for giving me this opportunity, giving me early access to Planet Coaster. We have access to the deluxe edition with the pre-order bonuses, so we have the entire game at our disposal. And oh my gosh, thank you so much to Kat and everyone over there at Frontier. I really appreciate this lovely opportunity. I am so excited to be bringing you Planet Coaster content both today and in the future, hopefully for the next many years. And that's just a little hint at how I feel about the game overall, but we'll get into that. So let's first talk about the good in Planet Coaster 2. My favorite bits, the things that I think they've really hit the nail on the head with. First one for me, Coaster Builder. I think it's pretty solid. I think the new smoothing tool provides a lot of control, especially for those of us that aren't all about how to build those coasters with the teeny tiny track segments. In fact, the new smooth tool allows you to smooth coasters like we did in Planet Coaster 1 using the 4-meter method with the forward and backward. That's now baked into the game. It makes it so even noobs like me can make decent coasters. Overall, the whole experience of the Coaster Builder just feels friendlier for whatever reason. Not quite sure how to describe it other than that. The coasters to me look a lot smoother from the off-ride views, and they ride a lot smoother from the POVs with minimal fuss. I know in Planet Coaster 1 a lot of our coasters were wibbly and wobbly. I mean, I haven't built a lot yet, but the one I did build, I kind of went quick, and I think it turned out quite smooth. You can watch the video where I have a POV of that inverted coaster right over here. There's also just as much fiddle room, I think, for the as Planet Coaster 1 for those who really want it. Of course, with reasonable expectations, 4 meters are still the minimum. You can toggle track limits, exceeding track limits and all that in the menu for those of you that want the ultimate control. Scenery is another big plus for me for Planet Coaster 2. I just think overall it's so well designed. The 4 themes are thoughtful, colorful, fun. They're full of charm. I really like them. I'm a big fan of the Viking theme right now. That's probably one of my favorites. There also seems to be quite a bit of overlap between the sets. You can use pieces from one theme pretty well in another. There's a lot of wood and stone throughout all the themed sets to really help you kind of make it all look your own. I think there's the ability with practice to create even new themes within the pieces that are provided to us. I know a lot of people were upset that there was no Western theme. There are several wooden wall sets in the game, and I think with some creativity and the use of some of the props that are available in some of the other themes, you can make a rather convincing Western theme. Granted, no cowboys or anything like that. And I think one of the big things, so much recolorability. One of my big turnoffs from the base game of Planet Zoo was how few things were recolorable, and Frontier has done an absolute 180 on that. This time, there is so much recolorability throughout the game. The rock sets in the scenery tab are wonderful. There are dozens of useful rock pieces in various sizes and shapes. The texture mapping on them with the moss on top is awesome, just like it is in Zoo. Love all the new rock pieces. And of course, the big one, scalability. It is as awesome as advertised. It is an absolute game changer. When I remembered it was there, it made my building so much easier. Of course, I did forget about it most of the time, though. I love the foliage overall from Planet Coaster 1. There's a wide variety of trees and shrubs from a variety of biomes. It looks like they kind of picked and chose things from Zoo to put in the Planet Coaster 2. And I think a lot of them are from the base game of Planet Zoo, but they're wonderful. There's not just one version of trees. There are still small, medium, and large versions of like ponderosas, for example, and some tree species even include saplings, which is nice to see, but they're usually just referred to as the small. And I do like that the larger trees do feel large like they do in Zoo. That's a nice thing to bring into Planet Coaster, because a lot of times a lot of the trees in Planet Coaster 1 didn't feel as big as I was hoping they would. And I really like the scenery brush. It is very potent, but it is fiddly to set up. It does take some time to set up a custom brush, but once you do have that brush set up, it is easy as pie to use. But even on low settings, it does tend to spray a lot of foliage around. Sound is great in Planet Coaster 2. As always, I've always said Frontier kills it with the audio. The coasters sound great, the new music is amazing, and there's more speaker options and speakers are more flexible. Every speaker now has the option to use it for music or ambiance or triggered sounds. There's no more individual speakers for individual needs, which is nice. And there's a bunch of different shapes and sizes of speakers for more realistic audio setups in your parks if that's something you care about. And the lighting is wonderful. The ray tracing is stunning. The dark interiors while daylight is showing is just great. I love being able to look down a dark hallway that's being covered up, like in my station build. There's just a hallway. I've lit it up and you can see it's being lit from the inside, but it's dark. Oh, it's so nice. And that opens up the possibilities for dark rides in a way that we've never seen before. And just that is confirmed, and yes, it works as intended, is exciting. Another good thing is that there's toggleable collision and a true sandbox mode. You can turn off all management aspects if that's your bag, like mine, and you can remove just about all collisions, or you can turn them on if you want. And what's really cool is in the sandbox you can mix and match, and they give you some setups predetermined. Like you can do a totally creative, or you can do just peat management, or you can just do a no money but full management, or you can tweak them all to your needs. So it is really flexible, and that's great to see. The more options we have control over, I think the better overall. So those are my most positive parts of Planet Coaster 2, but that's only half of this video. Unfortunately, there are some issues, and we need to talk about them now. The big elephant in the room, of course, is the UI or the UX. It's not great. The insistence of having menus upon menus upon menus is a real bummer. It's very fiddly, especially if you're coming from Planet Coaster 1. It takes several hours, I think, to get used to the new setup. And even though I'm now kind of used to it, I don't feel like I'm working as efficiently as I could be. And exiting out of a building group, for example, it's ridiculous. It's a 5 to 6 clicks or press of the escape button to exit all the nested menus and just get back to the basic menu. And then on top of it, things are misplaced in menus. Like example, there are pitched roofs in the flat roof menu. There are wooden beams. The only wooden beams in the game are located in the metal supports menu. It took forever to find them. There's lots of little bits like that. It's why? Overall, that is the biggest issue I have with the game right now, is the user experience. The user interface is not great. There's also a max of 6K guests in your park, at least in the sandbox, which is really kind of surprising. I know they've increased the graphics and all that stuff, but I want to see my parks, my large parks, absolutely brimming with peeps. I know there's hardware limitations, especially with the console release being in conjunction with the PC release, but I do hope that's something they're going to reconsider down the line. Another thing that's a kind of a big miss are the slide POVs. I mean, if you haven't watched Silverette's video about slides in Planet Coaster 2, you need to go do it. His video is spot on. It says it all. You should go watch it. Like, I'm not even into water parks and slides all that much, but even I can be like, that's not how water slides work. The POVs are not very good. Another thing I'm kind of frustrated about is this whole 2 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of thing. It's kind of a bummer that things that were fixed in both Planet Coaster 1 and in Zoo are suddenly back for whatever reason. Like, for example, there's the highlighting of the piece with that blue glow, and when you're trying to change color, but it's illuminated with this blue glow, it's not a when you pick a color, it's not represented on the building you're working on, and that is incredibly frustrating because it's not until you exit out of the piece that you can actually see what that color looks like in combination with your other color scheme, and I really don't like that. It's really a bummer to not being able, you can't see the filters. Like if you filter your build menu, your scenery menu, you can't see what filters you have highlighted, and you can't easily remove them. You have to go into another nested menu to get that out. I hate having to repaint individual pieces from the same scenery set. Like if I choose the 4-meter wall and I color it blue, I want to be able to pick the 2-meter sloped and it's still blue. It's not, it's the default color. So you have to individually change each piece each time you grab it from the menu. I hate that you have to click confirm to change colors of the pieces. I know this sounds like a silly little thing, but in a game that's as complicated, that lets you build as detailed as you want, like that does, anything to save a second here or there is going to add up. And the fact that I have to continually click confirm to change the color is frustrating. I've forgotten to do it so many times already, and I'm still forgetting quite a bit. I also don't like that you can't remove curbs on paths, as of now. Then of course there are some bugs and weird stuff. I'm sure most of this will be fixed eventually, but if this is what we're all going to be getting at release, guests all freeze when you place a slide exit or queues to paths, and they can freeze for several seconds. The whole park just stands still while I assume all the pathfinding is recalculated. Sometimes guests float, especially when crowded in big groups in big areas like near the entrance of a ride. Sometimes there's random crashes at random times. I mean, I know it's a new game, but I was building a Giga Coaster in the rain and I got a crash. So flat ride sounds, at least the carousel, is really, really loud. Like you hear the mechanics of the ride from quite a long distance away. And there's no actual carousel or organ music for the carousel. All that music that I love is great, but how do we not have an organ track for our carousel? That seems a bit of an oversight. It does kind of feel like maybe corners were cut, or the game was a bit rushed. Maybe they ran out of resources or manpower or time. I'm not quite sure. It feels different in a weird kind of way. So that's the good and the bad of my time with Planet Coaster, with Planet Coaster 2. I'm just going to give you a basic rundown. Upon my first time opening the game, I was not pleased. Those UI and UX choices really do make building a chore at first. I don't like how they changed some of the specific hotkeys either. It made going into the sequel, I think, unnecessarily difficult. Was I able to overcome most of them? Yeah, but it took several hours of that to happen. So if that is you and you find yourself frustrated, I think you're going to have to give it some more time. After about 6 or so hours, I did start to get used to it. I know I just went through a whole bunch of negatives and nitpicks, but I do think the potential for a really good game is there. I do think so. I think the things that have missed the mark stink, but I don't think it sinks the entire play experience, at least from a Creative Sandbox point of view. Frontier has proven themselves to fix the bugs, and they do listen, and they do add what we, the community, want to see in the game. So, despite all the negatives that I mentioned, I do have hope that it will become the game that we all know it can be. I have more positives than negatives, and the positives I have are bigger than the negatives I have. So with that, at this point, I would hesitantly recommend Planet Coaster 2 to you if you really loved the first game and you're willing to overlook some of its current issues. I think that's about as good as I can be about it. So that's my view on Planet Coaster 2 here, a few days before launch. I'm still excited to play, and I'm still excited to explore. I feel like I've only scratched the surface, and I'll be here to share with you all the content I make, and hopefully you are excited for that. So thanks for watching. Appreciate you spending time with me. Take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.